the OGN broadcast way back in the day. So honestly, LPL, it's really important to have moments like this when we have these kind of community broadcasts. We can come together and celebrate the league and talk about how Ultra Prime have trash talked Rare Atom and get to know these players, because sometimes there are so many teams in the LPL, it is very, very hard to get to know all of the players, and this helps just a little bit. Rare Atom going to bounce back now in Game 2 to get a little bit more on topic, and we're into Draft 2.
We're going to hope they've gone to the janitor's closet, pulled out some bleach, ready to do some cleanup this time in the bathrooms, because Ultra Prime were pretty explicit in multiple ways about how exactly they were going to beat them.
Do you want me to talk about chlorine atoms? That's a part of bleach. I can talk about that.
You can do that. Go for it.
I can talk about that at some point. Actually, I can't remember that much about chlorine. We can talk about that later.
You are like, I just said sure, and you went, well, I put myself in this hole.
I know the chemical element is Cl, and it's often a negative ion thingy. Look, I can't remember this stuff. Ends up becoming like a metal salt with sodium as well to make salt, which is a table salt.
Is it just like a really
no? So
metal band?
A lot of salts are made out of metals. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Yeah.
So it's just people who play Pentacle Mordekaiser.
I can give you a proper rare atom fact, which is that anything which isn't hydrogen or helium to an astrophysicist is known as a metal, because it's just anything which isn't those two which make up most of the observable universe.
I'm surprised you've not run out of rare atom jokes, because all the good ones are gone.
That's good. But yeah, I think it's something like 97% of the observable universe is hydrogen and helium, or I think the last
my ego.
I think 2%. I think oxygen's a pretty big component as well. Anyway, we're into the draft. A couple of these lane dominant carries gone. We still have Varus, which is important, assuming he's a big player of that. And this is something which Viklo has played a little bit of. It's been popping up a lot in the LPL because it feels like Hui, as the longest range mage in meta, allows him to bully out a lot of lanes and also combo up with stuff like Nautilus, which is very powerful, and stuff like Vi, which is kind of point and click and allows you to combo into it. So now Ultra Prime, I wonder whether they can maybe either deny some of that point and click or pick up something which can close the distance on the Hui to stop him being an artillery bot.
That's often then been a pretty solid response into something like the Varus, because Varus can't stay away from the abilities in the way he can normally against a lot of other mid lane champions, because he's such a long range with his E, with his Q, with his R. His ability to engage with fights regardless of the nominal range of his opposition just isn't quite the same when the Hui can hit you from 2 screens away. They were debating the Xin Sao response. Instead, they lock the Renata and the Xin Sao, and they leave the Varus alone, which does mean Asum could pick it up here if he so wishes.
You can also then potentially have the threat of going towards poke Varus with the Hui. Now, you don't go poke Varus when there's a big enough front line. Yes?
No, keep going. It's fine. I just wanted to come back to it.
You really wanted to jump into it.
I was thinking Callista's up as well.
Yeah, but so the thing is, you can go for the Callista Renata or the Varus Renata on the side of Ultra Prime. So they're happy to just leave up their choice there. They can do basically whatever they want there. Whereas on the other side, I think if you lock in the Varus, you have the build flexibility to then choose how your playstyle goes through a little later. I think it's different if you have to go into the Cassante or a heavy tank, because then you need an on-hit Varus to do extra DPS, and then you kind of effectively cut that range in half for the Varus. But now with the Hui Varus, with the Cassante already banned, it's very likely to get that double poke combo out. To Ultra Prime, I think they'll really want some combos which can go very, very aggressively. They can't pick the Maokai out this time, and now with the Jax locked in, likely going to Nio in the jungle to be a Xin Zhao answer. I'm not calling it a counter. I don't think it's a complete counter, but it is an answer in terms of the 1v1 matchup. It means that Ultra Prime might even have some contest on them going forward aggressively, because that Jax can just throw up a counter-strike and give them some issues.
This means Doggo's got to be very aware about the pockets he's playing in, because Jax's ability to flash, leap strike, counter-strike on top of someone like a Callista can make Callista's life very, very difficult. It's often been the case that Callista's in the mid-game, when there are people who are able to interrupt her autos, kind of make her feel real sad.
Yeah, so we get ourselves into the second round. Burns just now, and you can see that potentially Decade is setting up for maybe with the Darius ban, maybe looking for a bit more of a frontline champion like the Udyr. That would be also one of the if you lock in someone like the Udyr, maybe you do then force the Varus to go in towards an on-hit, because that's still fairly tanky. You just want to ban out, maybe then you could also ban out Gnar or Aatrox. Oh, well, the Aatrox is already gone, so maybe something like the Gnar to just say, look, I don't want to lose the individual matchup, but I still want to play a frontliner, so I can't really allow some of these more individual threatening champions to come through.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what those bans are indicating. I completely agree. There's the Gnar you called for.
I predicted it.
That probably does mean it will be that Udyr 4th pick. You're absolutely right. On the other side, though, there is still a little bit of a question about what goes top. There's the Udyr band themselves. They say, look, that's what they were selling. Of course. And now it means what does Decade want to go for? And there's still actually a world where Xiaoshu takes the Jax. It doesn't have to go jungle.
That's a bit of a worry. I mean, what else would you really go for in jungle for Nio? I don't think you really want to go towards something like... I mean, you could go for something like the Vi.
So I'm thinking Vi might not be a bad option.
At least you can get towards the backline that way. But even then, that means that your early lane is kind of awkward. You're going to pick up the Azir. He's had some great performances on this. But also sometimes too, where I think he has overplayed on the Azir, where he's looked for the miracle play and very nearly missed it. It's kind of fallen away on the other side. Of course, no support picked up for Zora just yet, so that's something which can be put into table. And there is the potential, of course, as you were saying, for Xiaoju to pick up their Jax as well. So a bit of flexibility for Rare Atom to round out their draft. They pick in the front line as Ziswani, which means the Jax is going top. It's not going to be what we've seen in the LPL in the last week, which is, again, why we're focusing on it so much. This is one of the first Jax top lane picks that we've actually seen, because it has been picked so often into the Xin Zhao. So Juani locked up into the jungle, and with the Maokai as well, that would be a great double front line. Both of these champions were S tier plus tank junglers of last year. Now you can put the Maokai down into the support, so you can get yourself a huge front line to play double carries around. I still think you probably would like to go towards the poke Varus and play from hyper range, but now if you play from hyper range, there's a chance of something even longer range coming in. We don't see that very much, but either way, Ultra Prime needs to do one or two things: contest range or have all in to go around with the rest of the team. I think those are the two options you'd really like.
Been a few different options here. The Fiora would be a third archetype, which is, we don't care about the team fights anymore. I'm just looking for the 1v1s, the skirmishes. Instead, it goes back towards the Malphite. The all-in's there. You cannot stop this champion going forwards. Unstoppable is a hell of a buff. And that means the Maokai, that means the Sejuani aren't going to be able to prevent this Malphite getting into the squishy backline.
And now there is a question, because this is a tank top lane we don't see very much, and a lot of how we hinged this draft was saying, hey, if you have the poke Varus and the poke Hui, you have very long range poke, but now because you have the tank in the top lane, which we didn't expect of the Malphite, maybe you do have to go towards the on-hit again and move away from the on-hit and move away from that poke. It means that maybe you have to pick up that DPS amount. And that means that you have to play around a lot shorter ranges from the side of Rare Atom. On the other side, Azir, Kalista, very, very competent at playing aggressively and getting DPS out. It's a hug between the two coaches. These two teams very close. They play from the same facility. They have themselves, or rather, both their training rooms are in the same complex.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of camaraderie, it feels like, across the rift.
Yeah, and for all the shit talk such as it is, it feels like both of these teams really want to beat each other because they're quite close, because they know each other so well, and it means that when this fire comes out, it comes with that little personal edge. And I also want to call out as well, how much do you think Doggo is going to have to carry this game? Because there are so many ways for this Kalista to end up in hot water, or perhaps a forest. To pick another element of sorts.
So how much does he have to carry? It depends how well Yuko does, because one of them is going to have to pick up the DPS amount, and they are the ones to really go forwards, start things off. Ultra Prime, they have an easy go button again to play around. That was something that worked very well when Hacker had that button with the Maokai in game one. It's now been shifted over to Decade in that top lane. Ultra Prime looking to try and seal out a clean 2-0. It would mean an awful lot to them. It would only be the second series winner of the split so far.
Yeah, and it's not like Ultra Prime have been completely without good looks. They are 1-7, but they have picked up a fair number of wins. They haven't been completely out for the count. Yes, there have been series where Rammus Yumi has been locked in. Despite the kind of theory of it making some sense on paper, the execution was suboptimal, shall we say.
We do have the poke Varus coming through. He's teleported and assuming he has the Halo Blade, so he's looking to play towards poke. That could be an issue later on. Now, it does work well versus Azir, and it works well versus the Kalista. It doesn't particularly work well versus Xin Zhao, and it doesn't work well versus the Malphite, because you want to play from a range that the Crescent Guard doesn't allow you to play from, and then if Malphite gets into the front line, you're going to have largely an armor-stacking Malphite trying to build Frozen Heart and getting straight on top of that AD carry in the Jax, and he's going to be really hard to get through.
Yes, he is. I've also, at this point, got to call out a very important synergy discrepancy.
What have you got?
Everybody but Vikla on Rare Atom is running Cosmic Insight. He's not. And that is a kind of, like, lack of team harmony that I can't get behind.
How will they unlock the secrets of the universe without Cosmic Insight? It is so...
They won't be able to find other rare atoms.
They won't be able to find any more rare atoms. None of those actinides and lathanides or whatever they're called. The really rare ones, which are like the ones
Francium.
No, Francium's different. That's not a Lathanite or an Actinide. That is the heaviest of the...
Yeah, I thought it was still rare.
It is rare, but it's not a Lathanite or an
that's
Actinide.
rare, Alex.
No, there is a specific group called Lathanides and Actinides, which are so rare that you basically have to make them yourself because they're too heavy and unstable. That's the thing. Often you have to split
Telling me I
an
need to
apple.
lose weight.
Well, someone had to tell you so. Because actually you have to split an apple for it to get stable. It often like throws off, you know, because if it's too big, it kind of struggles to stay together, and that's why it often big atoms become smaller atoms.
There you go.
Yeah, it's true. Often because they have themselves, they've had a bad week. They're a bit unstable. They're suffering. They're suffering a little bit. They might need to just talk it out.
The universe tends to carbon.
No, it's iron 50.
That's why it's the one, isn't it? It's a lot of
Iron
suns turn up in iron
54,
54.
Well, it has to be because it's the most stable atom. Oh my god, we've now translation this back to League. Iron is the most stable element. Truly, the secret of League of Legends is not separate yourself from results. Become iron. Become stable.
I started when I finally started ranking up on my actual main account. I ended up like debuting in iron, which was an awful time. I had to climb my way out of those depths, and I can tell you it's not stable down there, Alex.
You just haven't found the secrets of the universe.
I did climb my way out relatively fast, but Evelyn.
You're making it sound like you're Bane from Batman. I climbed my way out. I mean, we could maybe talk about
see the light.
We could
see the light. I looked. I was already a man.
Oh god. Well, you can see Vikla doing some good damage here. Just pass it down. Yuka needs to back off a fair way because the QW would kill him if Vikla could find him out. And that's nice, I like that. Somebody painted things we can go towards that. Rare Atom, they're gonna have top lane and mid lane.
It's all about the Monet.
Pushing in. All about the Monet.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yes, it was.
Oh, that's awful. That is.
You'd like that point.
That is. That. Okay, I need to actually talk about the game very quickly. We'll get back to that. Verse. Puns. That's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. The Rare Atom, they at least have themselves a bit of priority in the mid and top lane. Thing is, once you get a couple of levels in W from the Malphite, whether that comes in mid game or a little bit earlier, the armor stacking gets really, really obnoxious against Xiaoshu. You got to imagine that he's going to go towards, I'd like to see at least, Balmy Cinder into a Frozen Heart, or even just a straight Frozen Heart rush. I think we're completely fine. I think Xiaoshu after that point will find it really, really difficult to work his way through that Malphite, even with the Sejuani potentially comboing up with that too, with the melee synergy. As it stands right now, it's heading towards bot lane. There is a cleanse on Doggo, not on Dway though.
Yeah, exactly. Normally you think about it being the carries are the ones with the melee synergies, but Maokai will do that job just fine here in the bot lane. Does have ways to get into combat to follow up on a Sejuani relative first, or set up actually in the first place, and also means, as you were saying, Decade's life a little bit trickier if Xiaoshu gets involved. Right now, though, the game has been relatively slow, relatively stable, and I remind you people what you told me last game, is that Rare Atom are nominally a team that likes to play fast. This hasn't been super aggressive or anything so far early, but we are only 5 or so minutes in. There's still time for that to happen, but I do want to see them try some stuff early if they can.
Yeah, do they like to play fast all the time? Well, I think that's typically just easier for them to snowball through things, right? When you're playing with a snowball, it's often just so much easier to play the game, and I think that's the identity which Rare Atom has sometimes gone towards. The problem is, sometimes they go so fast and a little bit out of things that, they saw them on Vision, and the Vision, that's what happens. But they often go a little too fast and the wheels come off, and then they had things slow down after one awkward play, and even against their best wishes, things go away from them. Nio using the Jack's pressure towards top lane, at least for the early levels, before Malphite gets levels and items to get himself grubs. That's kind of important. It feels like maybe Jax could become a split push threat later into the game if Xiaoshu plays this out well enough and the macro of Rare Atom is good enough for them to punish Decade grouping up with his team. So the grubs will help with that.
Yes, they will, and it will end up being the trade of those objectives. That often has been the case, and now Decade is being forced to flash. The initial permafrost comes on through, and Summoner down, but Decade does hold on to the ultimate.
That's so interesting. So there are some times where it's completely fine to hold on to your ultimate instead of your flash. If you're planning to use it in a very short-term scenario, Decade is just trying to get a wave crash in. He might have to have his ult thrown away anyway, as he does ult out. He buys a little bit of time from Nio towards that top side. There was no one coming to help him. The problem is, Jax is very, very good at holding waves. He just throws Counter-Strike up, but he ignores the minion autos, which means he can wait until the next wave comes through. He does damage the wave quite a lot with that Counter-Strike at early levels, because it does count the minion auto attacks sometimes into the extra damage. I think it counts cannons into that. I'm not sure it counts the range minions all the time, but Still, it's a little bit dangerous now if Xiaoshu can use the current 15 CS advantage to then freeze this lane, get even further ahead, and stop Decade getting to the pain point of this matchup against the Jax, where after the early game, you get levels, you get items, and Jax can't really do much to you.
Yeah, it feels like unusually for a top lane tank matchup, it's the Malphite that's one of Jax's harder ones to deal with. Doesn't have the same, it feels like, was it you or one of the other colorcasters we talked to saying, like, actually, Malphite's not a great matchup for Jax? I seem to recall someone telling me as you was.
I've said that before, but I can't remember a big conversation about it. Particularly after, I think it was Cassante at the start of the year where that conversation came around in terms of, well, you don't have Sunder anymore, it's harder to play around that, and you can see that. Right now, Xiaoshu has the point of power where Decade hasn't stacked armor, hasn't got huge amounts of levels into the W to get the armor scaling on that as well, the armor buff up. So Xiaoshu gets a decent trade onto Decade. Nio now has level 6. He's spotted out heading towards top lane. Hackett needs to be here to protect this. Decade has to back all the way off. This laning phase in topside, it's only bad early on for the Malphite, but Ultra Prime have not shielded Decade well in this topside. Hack is now coming up topside, but it's a little late. Plate going over. They see the recall. Don't manage to stop it. Decade at least gets half the wave under this turret.
He broke his shield, and I think it was within that last 0.5 second or so, which is uninterruptible in Decade. Losing about 25 odd CS of the result of the last few moments, and that's why he was trying to get the wave in, guys, because otherwise he just loses that amount of CS and the lane is effectively over then anyway. Sometimes that's the reason you see top laners stick around a little longer than they probably should, is because they've got to take the risk.
So the thing is, it punishes you more in top lane than it does in mid lane, where we often see a flash blown in mid lane, but in top lane it's often just a full death because of the longer lane. It doesn't change the fact that the identity is still the same between both mid and top lane, where sometimes you need to get that back to change a matchup. You need to get, I mean, obviously in bot lane and mid lane, sometimes someone like AD carries needing a Vamp Scepter or needing a Lost Chapter. In top lane, it can be something like the Barmies, or it can look for... Playing the mid lane as Yokai tries to force Vikla back as he's eaten the bad end of a lot of trades early on against the Hui, who's a bit of an Azir counter. Now Xiaoshu threatening Decade once again, just taking these continual trades.
Yeah, Vikla very swiftly with a Gaze of the Abyss to try and get a route afterwards to prevent Yokai from chasing any further, but the flash still blown. And we are back to the kind of holding pattern we've been in for the majority of this game. It has actually been Rare Atom trying a little bit more, particularly towards that top side, to get incremental advantages, and they are up about 1,000 gold, which is great when you're looking at this side and you're seeing things like a Callista lane and the cleanse just forced from Doggo. Vikla is going to find Hacker on the other side, does get the Gaze of the Abyss into the spiraling despair, and Hacker has got a Crescent Guard up and around, so that won't actually end up splattering him with any more ink or paint.
Yokai doesn't have big items just yet, so worth noting, Yokai has built up a Ruby Crystal in inventory.
He's got Grasp as well.
He's got Grasp, so Yokai, okay, we do actually need to talk about that. I completely skipped my mind. So this will be tanky Azir.
Yep.
So this is going to be something like, Liandry's Frozen Hard Abyssal, and then you go towards stuff like the Riftmaker after. You do the double mass stacking a little bit later into the game, but you focus on being a tank initiator, which means that actually Ultra Prime have double initiation threats onto the backline carries. They'll still need to get through a Sejuani and the Maokai and the Jax, which will be a bit problematic, but that's worth noting actually. Yokai doing okay in terms of the laning phase, is a little bit behind, which you somewhat expect versus that Hui. We'll have to keep an eye on that later into the game, because it won't be the DPS Azir.
Part of the problem, though, is on the side lane, this Jax is going to prove to be a little bit unmatchable with how the laning phase has gone. Is very happily just farming for free, another plate to the name, and you have kind of opted into the 5v5 brawls by locking in the Malphite, and you've really yet to get to that stage of the game where that's going to be a consistent thing. Grub's up and available, but so is Dragon, and Ultra Prime are heading on over to it. You can see Malphite roaming down the river, will try and get towards this play.
Yokai, while he might be tankier later on into the game, not quite at that point yet, has the Grasp HP stacking. He's gone towards Sork Boots, though, for a little bit of early damage. He is not currently at the play. You see that Nio and Zora between two different parts of Ultra Prime as the Ren stacks start going.
Decade decided against that roam down, as you kind of alluded to. Does have the teleport, so could turn up if things get spicier. Instead, it is just that Drake secured. 2 dragons to none, and Ultra Prime using the power of the Callista suppression on the dragon with the Ren stacks to allow them to secure that one well enough, as Yokai is going a little deep into the river with 2 members around, but just gets the ward down, and we'll leave it at that. Nio just spotted out by a ward as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of important, because Ultra Prime, they're on the back foot for a little while. They need a couple of items, really, feels like, and particularly against the range advantage, which can follow up very easily onto someone like Zora and Nio going forward aggressively. It feels like Ultra Prime not in a dissimilar spot to last game where they're waiting for their time to shine. It'll be much harder to play through. It's much less obvious how they need to play out this team composition. Much harder than the Maokai press and go, the Milio buffing up the AD carries. But still, one thing that does stay the same is that they kind of need to wait for their moment in the sun.
How does that sort of level and link up with the fact that you have drafted something like a Kalista lane, which I know nominally when we've talked about this before, you say, look, you just want to see the Kalista do things early, or it feels really bad.
That's a good question, actually, because the thing is, you are still an AD carry that can still follow up aggressively or allow your support to follow up aggressively onto big engaged players like the Malphite and the Azir. This team composition, it would be lovely to have that Kalista having a better laning phase. Hacker currently walking forwards into multiple people as the Grubs will be finished off by Raratzen. But Kalista in this composition feels like it is more of a follow-up bot than really the main character that Kalista is in early game compositions. It's a little bit different. Oh, let me think. Are there any other Kalista compositions which are like that? I suppose there's stuff like Kalista Taric and Kalista Sona, or rather Kalista Soraka. Sometimes you share that identity where it's like, it's not all, well, actually Soraka is quite lane dominant, but it's not always about the lane dominance. It's more about how what you bring later into the game. Can you facilitate the support? Problem is, that does mean that if you're not the one bringing out the damage, things can be a bit of an issue. Hacker does have his ult, does have flash, but he's forced away from his red buff. Raratzen, this time, the early game for them, with the early pushing lanes and the early level power spikes, is working very well for them. Sundered Sky built up first for Xiaoshu, interestingly, for the replacement of the Divine Sunderer to allow him to take those short grasp trade against Decade and remain sustained in lane.
It's the Sunfire first from Decade. And a lot of times we've seen, particularly in the jungle, just sticking on the Barmy Cinder, because you often end up in these positions, right, where the Sunfire itself is really inefficient for what you're paying for. You often just stay on the Barmies because you got the burn, and then you go towards more efficient items. Malphite, though, is just saying, look, I want the Sunfire completed, I want the additional burn, I just need this now. Probably has denied something like Steel Caps, though.
Well, Steel Caps, and then also denied an earlier Frozen Heart, which is so cheap and very effective versus Jax. Now, in this build for Jax, he's jumping forward, taking quick trades with the counter strike, and then just looking for an auto reset with the auto W. So it is less important to deny the longer trades with Frozen Heart. But with Frozen Heart, you can look for the longer trades and force Jax into losing situations with them. So I feel like maybe Decade, poorly itemizing at that point, he'll need a little bit longer really to get online.
Got the icon in my head, but what is Jax W called again?
Empower.
Empower.
Yeah, it's actually a very easy one. So Jax's are. You have jump, you have leap strike, empower, counter strike, and then Grandmaster Might.
Yeah.
And his passive is Grandmaster at Arms?
Grandmaster at Arms, yes.
Something like that. Yeah, or
I believe it's Grandmaster.
That might be his title as a champion is the thing. Oh no, he's the Grandmaster. I can't. No, his title is something. I can't remember all the champion titles. I remember most of them, not all of them. No, was spotted going top though. Didn't spot out the ward which spotted him. Is anyone coming top side? No, not just yet. So that will be full turret with 6 grubs to Xiaoshu.
It's gone.
This is a problem. This Malphite needed to be supported better in early game to stop these early levels being so badly. Going so badly for him. He's 40 CS down currently, a huge amount of gold from plates, and then also the first tower coming through as well. Xiaoshu's now going to crash this wave into a turret, so Decade can't even hold a freeze at this point, you don't think. And with great vision on top side into the enemy red side jungle from Raratzen, it feels like Ultra Prime don't really have the confidence to walk towards that side of the map and allow Decade some pressure.
That's going to be a little unfortunate, and honestly, Hacker this time around hasn't really managed to get that much done. He's managed to get a couple of dragons, that's nice. Was around bot to ward off the attempted roam from Vikla and Nayo earlier on, but that's kind of been it. This Xin Zhao yet to really get much done, as Hacker will find Nayo once again in his jungle.
Nayo is a level up on Hacker too. That's a problem when you're playing the Xin Zhao versus the Sejuani as well. Sejuani has the Frozen Heart, which will be against a lot of attack speed carries. Xin Zhao also likes his own attack speed. He gets that from his own Audacious Charge. Afterwards, teleport towards bot side with the Liandry's built up for Yukai, so he does have decent damage right now. Later on, he's going to go towards a bit more tankiness and just relying on some burn damage to get him through. But Ultra Prime, they're in a really difficult situation now, where they're losing if a big play doesn't happen, but they also don't have the tools to make that big play. In Game 1, I was really impressed by how Hacker, who has had a history of being a leader on the aggressive champions, could press the go button. It is not nearly as easy to make that work now. Raratzen, some of the Herald, Dragon started up, Ultra Prime starting to stack up Ren stacks, important for them to get Soul Point if they can, but Xiaoshu, this powerful Jax, is on the flank with a flash, and he's spotted out by a ward.
Yukai just walks into him, shuffles him over the wall, Counter-Strike on 3 members! What was that decision-making? The spiraling displayer comes flying on over as well and just paints a picture of how much of a bad idea that one was.
Oh, Yukai, bloody hell. That's not the Emperor's Divide.
no.
That's like Amazon's Divide. He's just delivered Xiaoshu right into his own team. Didn't even have to use the flash to get into the perfect position. What an awful team fight from Ultra Prime. It was always going to be difficult. I commend them for looking towards the soul point, and they do get the dragon, but at what cost? Rare Atom, they have so cleanly played around this Jack snowball now, and the rest of the map is starting to follow suit. It's not even beyond 20 minutes for someone like a Herald to go over, but Ultra Prime so far down.
Let's just have a look at this thing, because Yukai spots the Jax. They know he's there. And Yukai goes to try and fight him.
No, this is the doorbell ringing. Hey, got a like a UPS delivery for you. Gets a huge delivery into the backline. Yukai, I know he has to save himself, but that ultimate should have gone a different direction.
And I do understand that Doggo has Flash and Cleanse and manages to save Joy briefly. And they do at least only go 1 for 2 there, but that was not great. They do get the dragon, however. You know what? Despite the fight going poorly, they're still at soul point. And that is a win con, so there is something in there still.
Oh, it is, but how do you fight for the next dragon? How do you even begin to push lanes to get to that dragon? It is so hard. You have Mercury's treads built up by decades. So often we have this from the Malphite, where actually when you're against a lot of CC, you do actually need the tenacity, and with the amount of base armor you get in your kit, it definitely helps you towards that Yukai. I'm trying to take the damn red buff, not even allowed that. Rare Atom are not allowing them anything. Paperwork for that red buff has not been signed for Ultra Prime. It's being repossessed by the Rare Atom Repo Men.
That's what Rare Atom does now.
Yeah, they're actually just
being
Repo Men.
science.
It's been a hard time for scientists in the current economic climate. Hacker walking forward. It has a couple of members coming through with the Hex Gates towards him. This game now feels very hard to play through. CC into death.
He's got a bailout available. Has a Fate's Call too and does get saved. So will not die. Fate's Call does its work there and keeps the support alive. And they burn quite a lot on what turns out to be a very savable Renata.
So I saw Doggo kind of on midway and I thought surely they kill him before he turns up, but he managed to get there in time. It's going to be that ultimate. But all the same, Ultra Prime surviving one play, and that's one play amongst many they'll have to survive to claw their way back into this game. Rare Atom, really want to praise them, actually. Very clean early game this time. Game 1, they looked for the early game snowball, and they had the right mindset to do so. It felt like the composition wasn't really helping them with that. Lisa and Karma, not a great mid-jungle TV2 to make aggressive plays, and they suffered with that, and they eventually stalled out. This game, they are not stalling. They're absolutely turning on the afterburners. Ultra Prime really struggling now to keep pace.
4 turrets to none as well means finding safe spaces to farm, places to be on the map is very tricky. And how on earth do you now even consider contesting for that final dragon that would claim you soul when you've basically pinned back to your tier 2s at best, and hell, there's not even a tier 2 in mid lane to work with.
There is not. So, Ultra Prime, how much can they scrounge out of their own jungle? They've got themselves some vision control. Dragon's not up for a little while, so they don't have to be setting up for that one just yet. Are they even going to get themselves the second items, though, for this dragon? They're currently a full item down a piece on the enemy composition. Looks like you've got the Frozen Heart coming through from Yukai. Eventually, Doggo trying so hard to get himself towards the second item as well, but does just feel so difficult for them to get any resources. They can't even get the jungle camps.
No, and that's showing particularly on Hacker, who just can't find any CS, and this is often the way you start to see junglers become more and more anemic, is the fact that their camps are just no longer there. Their ability to get to farm is just no longer really an option, and you also, just with the fact you're playing a Shinto, are less valuable. Someone else is a big amount of damage. The fear comes on through though, and now they can start playing this one out. But Xiaoshu flashing away is Vikla from that Malphite ultimate. Might still die, not quite yet though. The shields are there. Flash forward from Hacker makes it a 1-for-1 for now. The hostile taker comes on through and forces Asum and Zora to fight briefly, but now Jway in danger and falls down 2-for-1. And Rare Atom continue to chase. Now you're throwing down the Glacial Prison. Decade still in danger. No flash available to him. And this Malphite is chipped away and mined for parts.
And he's really just not got the items. Yukai overplays his hand once again. It's something we know from this guy. Fantastic playmaker, but if he doesn't have the stats to do so, you know he's still going to try, but it often leads to the failure of the fight afterwards. He has decent damage, just can't get the kill quick enough. Teleports come through, and now Rare Atom They're in a bad point. Wait, that's a very good point. Rare Atom, they do still have the Kalista. There's going to be a teleport down towards this. Rare Atom, they're going to contest. Rare Atom, they just won the fight topside. This is a huge macro mistake. If this goes down quick enough, Ultra Prime might have somehow gotten themselves Hex Tech Soul.
They've secured it. There you go. Massive moment. And maybe that's why Yukai was looking for this, saying, look, if they come in too many numbers, we can just rush Soul.
So the Baron's taken by a Rare Atom, but Hextech Soul is such a disgusting source of damage and even wave clear in some ways too with the AoE. Yukai goes in, he's much tankier on the Azir than you normally expect. Worth noting as well that the grasp on the Azir applies on his soldiers now because it's an on-hit. Allows us to even get a little bit of extra healing and damage throughout the rest of that fight. It's going to flash away from Vikla. Deco teleports in, of course, to try and clean things up. But Rare Atom closer to the play. The problem is they just don't respect the Baron Rush. Doggo was not here for the play, which means obviously Doggo's full HP. Doggo can walk down to the bot side of the map. Ultra Prime, they sneak away a dragon after a great fight from the side of Rare Atom, and that's a bit concerning.
Still 9,000 gold and a Baron to their name, of course, so that is still a very significant lead and should hopefully allow them, if you are a Rare Atom fan, to be able to close out the game regardless. But it is a solid silver lining, a solid consolation prize from Ultra Prime, which may well keep them in the game long enough to keep playing, as Chains of Corruption do just go wide.
Go wide, you can see the amount of siege and range that still comes through from Rare Atom. Remember, this is the Poke Varus. Jax has been picking up the DPS numbers to deal with the tanks, which meant that the Poke Varus, which we talked about into the draft quite a lot, has never actually really been punished. Hextech Soul is helping a little bit in terms of wave clear, and there's a little bit of chip damage that potentially could come through, but it's not going to be enough to save this turret all the same.
Doggo is escorted back towards the wave. We'll throw down a sentinel there to try and spot out what's going on. Glacial Prison onto Jue, which I don't think is going to be that important. The turret does fall regardless, as now Arctic Assault's forwards, gets slowed by a loyalty program and just the Hex Soul in general. But they are holding on well enough for Ultra Prime. None of their net inhibitor turrets, rather, under siege yet now, as Hacker just goes in half HP and finds a Jax desperately low and falls as Xiaoxu just autos him down. Some empowered auto attacks doing their work. Twisted advance forwards. The hostile takeover comes across a lot of people, but to what avail? The unstoppable force is good. Trying to play this one out. The bailout doesn't quite come in.
Yukai!
Massive Emperor's Divide, and the Fate's Call afterwards just knocks everybody up and down. Doggo and Yukai manage to combo up with the CC chain, and Ultra Prime make a fight work.
Ultra Prime, from the depths of this game, from being so far behind in gold, shut down 3 members of the Rare Atom team. That's really important. It's good gold in pocket, and it elongates the game in a way that should not have happened. Feels like Ultra Prime, they've managed to pick apart a couple of the imprecise mistakes from Rare Atom. This first play, great from Xiaoxu. This is a start of a good thing. Hacker buys a little bit of time, though, and it allows the rest of his team to get in position to fire things off. This is the problem. Zora goes in way too far, into a choke point. Fantastic hostile takeover, good damage. Fantastic bailout as well to buy just a little bit more time, which allows Yukai to get right into the thick of things, forcing out flashes and forcing Rare Atom onto the retreat. This is now Ultra Prime in a position where maybe they can stall out the game.
Multi-man hostile takeover into a multi-man Malphite unstoppable force, into the bailout, into the multi-man use of the Emperor's Divide, multi-man Fate's Call afterwards. How much CC landed there in a row, in a corridor? Rare Atom not respecting the combos that Ultra Prime still have, despite being a long, long way behind.
Ultra Prime, they are still a very long way behind, even despite that. They got shutdowns, they got kills, but they are 8,000 gold into the deficit.
Jeez.
A lot of that is because they've been pushed so far into their own base that they haven't had access to the jungle camps, as we've been saying. And as, I don't say this often, but I do pay attention to Twitch chat every now and again, they have opened up Elder, and they have now overpushed outside of their base multiple teleports.
Doggo has the cleanse and trying to buy space as best he can, but Zora just gets on top of him. He's still hopping pretty well here. Doggo survives? Unbelievable. On the other side, Jue dies for it. Xiaoxu continuing to be a problem on the backside. Bailing out is the Kalista, but it's just not enough, and everyone is low on Rare Atom, but not dead. Yukai caught on the other side by Naya, who's preventing him from getting into this fight. A triple kill to this Jax, who is just monstrous from minute 1, shuffling away, and Yukai is trying very hard to play as well. Now, the turret's doing a lot of work. He gets another, and finally it ends up being a 3 for 5, but Yukai with the fanciest footwork I have seen in a long, long time.
And it saves the game. It's not a good fight. They lose, but it means that Rare Atom can't close out the game. Great set of teleports again. Rare Atom have been very quick on being able to punish over pushes. They punish the top side play from Yokai a little earlier, and they call in double teleports and get massive CC chaining onto Doggo. Blows his cleanse, blows a QSS as well. Even then, he still manages to hop around a little bit, but he can't properly fight. Doggo probably goes a little too close to Xiaoshu at this point. I think that's the big mistake. He still had Counter-Strike. He can't close that one down, and it leaves Yokai into the position to try and close things out. Elder has spawned in live, though, importantly so. If Ultra Prime can get onto this, they get the Ren stack, and they have been allowed to the objective first.
They've not got the teleports.
What are you doing?
They've not got the teleports. They couldn't get here quickly. They've got the Hex Gates, I suppose. They're going to come over the wall. As I fumble my words briefly, this will be the 5v5. The hostile takeover gets onto the Sejuani. Xiaoshu to the backside, onto Yokai. It is the Dragon secured. They've got the Elder. They secure it somehow, some way. Another fumble around Dragon. Xiaoshu, this Jax, this monster of the top lane, finally brought low. Raid Boss down. Elder Dragon down. Ultra Prime playing the game.
Ultra Prime are playing to back up their trash talk. Every single member had something to say about their training room neighbors in Rare Atom. They play from the same building when they practice, and you can see that there's some camaraderie, some hugs on stage before the game. This is all knives out in-game. Ultra Prime, they fight back in their own jungle. They fight back for the Elder, and they might just be able to claw back in this game. This is the LPL we love.
Oh my days. Someone call Daniel Craig, because I think there has been a murder if we're talking about knives being out, and we'll see whether there's a glass onion to be found, any more layers to this game to unpeel, because it feels like every step we go further, there's another surprise waiting.
So, with the Elder up, it means that Ultra Prime can get themselves a Baron. This won't end the game, but guys, Ultra Prime do not have a single turret. If they get to group up now, use their ultimates the next time they come up, and the last of the Elder buff too, they can get so much standing gold that they can get to the late game with maybe a 4-item Azir, 4-item Doggo, extra items onto Decade as well. You can be that front line. Rare Atom, this game felt unlosable, but they're in a difficult spot now. They need to somehow defend the entire map.
Doggo is actually left alone on the top side to try and push away freely, and Kalista at this point is a relatively slippery character unless everyone turns up all at once. And Ultra Prime instead rotate through the river, will come to support their AD carry.
See that Rare Atom, maybe in another situation could look for teleports to push down inhibitors, because Ultra Prime have to walk so far across the map to get these towers, but it's not going to be the case. First tower game taken by Ultra Prime, maybe an ultimate forced out from Decade. And indeed, it is. That's important. That's a big engage tool down from Ultra Prime, and maybe allows Rare Atom to look for a fight afterwards.
There's no teleport either, so there's a world where they could find the multi-man advantage, but instead, Ultra Prime just say, fine, you've attacked our Malphite, we're throwing up a Sun Disc behind us, we're going to continue playing out Wei. Briefly chunked out by some of the damage from Wei, who throws down that Severing Bolt, but they're just running down the top lane. Inhibitor's gone as well.
Now the thing is, Ultra Prime have not spent the gold that they have earned from this push. Elder is now off. They need to get themselves a good reset. It is a huge Baron power play from the point in the game that it was. An extra 4,000 gold in pocket, and that closes the late game gold difference to not that much effectively. These team compositions were so far apart in terms of gold just before, but Ultra Prime feels like they've outscaled in terms of the 5v5 team fight, and now they have much more even gold to now finally fight on even financial footing.
And I think as well, it's where the money's been distributed. The place where the gold has been missing has been the Malphite. It's been the Xin Zhao. The Kalista and the Azir have done a pretty good job about staying relevant. They've both gotten a lot of gold. They've both gotten involved in kills, particularly on Yukai's front. So a lot of that gold discrepancy wasn't where the damage was coming from, and that means that the front line was running well enough with the economy they had. Now they've got gold to their name. Those carries are going to be hitting even harder than they were, and this front line is going to get increasingly difficult to manage.
Trying to save the mid lane out of turret. I'm not sure they're going to be able to. Remember, again, Hex Tech Soul for Ultra Prime 2. How did we forget that? Earlier in the game, Rare Atom traded a Baron for the Soul. They couldn't close the game, and now the Soul is permanently in the pockets of Ultra Prime, with the turrets falling all the way across the map. Ultra Prime, next time they base again, they can have another set of turrets gold to go spend.
Grim Visage comes out onto Hacker, who is scared by what's being drawn by Wei. They're going to keep going forwards. Hacker still has that Crescent Guard available. They've got a hostile takeover across nearly everybody as well. Zora goes in, flashes away to try and keep Decade's ultimate at bay. Doesn't make that much difference. A Glacial Prison comes out to try and arrest somebody before danger can happen as Decade flashes away from what could have been a nasty counter-strike. Massive damage back, though, as Wei and Varus continue to be a problem. Flash forward now from Xiaoshu, and it will end up being a 2 for 2.
Oh, Yokai messes up his combo. He tries to go for the shuffle, and dies, and now his team might pay the price.
Xiaoshu trying to buy some space and time. There's still a lot of shields to work with. Flash away from Hacker, and they've got a blast going to work with Vikla. Still continuing to be a problem as the Severing Bolt has such a long range. Will not get anything more.
Oh god, there is another twist left in this game. Rare Atom not ready to let this one completely slip through their fingers. Very, very fortunate for Ultra Prime that they ended up taking that fight away from the Elder spawn, because they lose that, and they lose the Elder, potentially lose the game afterwards. Vikla, see it on the left-hand side of the screen, buys up a Medjai's, Assume, buys up a Cyrilda's as well. Rare Atom is starting to hit their last couple of items too. Actually, there was actually a selling of the Medjai's actually there from Vikla. I just saw the icon come up on the left. Problem here, Ultra Prime just took down a load of turrets, and they haven't spent their gold completely yet. They just took down mid lane outer and bot lane outer. That's important. We're going to have to see really what happens with some of these big team fight elements. This part's good. Managed to get onto the front line in terms of getting Malphite into the right place. But look at Yokai here. He tries to shuffle in and doesn't get the combo. No. He tries to get himself into the enemy team, flashes afterward, fat fingers that, and completely messes up the combo. Yokai, he has been so superb at moments, but he's also had a couple of big stinkers.
Fails the shuffle and then gets feared as he flashes. The Grim Visage catches him at the edge of the flash. He gets forced away again. Vikla, kind of a quiet threat in this game. 1, 2, and 12 on the way. At 3.5 items is still a real danger point.
So, Elder, coming up in 20 seconds. Ultra Prime, honestly, every time they've had a decent fight, they have won. As long as these hostile takeovers from Jue keep doing huge damage to the rest of the team, buying up so much space. As long as Yokai can have a decent fight, as opposed to that fat-fingered one before, Ultra Prime, I favor them going into this Elder. They should be looking to 2-0 here, and with the Hextech Soul, they have even more stats, remember.
So you need to be a little bit careful. They've often maybe overplayed a little bit, and if they do, Xiaoshu can punish. He is still very, very strong on this Jack. Elder started up. Remember, they've got the Ren secure.
Ren stacks hip. Xiaoshu spotted on the flank. He's going to get answered by Decade, who is actually fairly tanky now. Doggo going to tank up the Maokai ult.
Trying to play this one out his back is into the backline. They go. Yokai taken low, but not down, and Xiaoshu desperately low as well. Doggo in, has got a bailout, trying to play this one out. Is healing up so much. It's a 1-for-1 right now, but the people who've died are very different in importance. Xiaoshu's dead as well. Guardian Angel lost.
Assume
has gone over the wall and just dies as well, and I think he assumed too much. 3 dead, no smite, and this should be it.
Yukai's backing, looking to teleport onto the top wave, to teleport in onto the broken inhibitor. There's only Vikla left as wave clear. Yukai may be looking to potentially look for an all-in to end the game.
It'll be a 2v1, has Elder to his name, and will be able to just throw down soldier after soldier. The rest of Ultra Prime are going down the mid lane. It will be Yukai who is being forced to be responded to, and that will give free time to get another turret, another potential inhibitor afterwards, and Ultra Prime are looking to really seal this game out.
It feels like Ultra Prime, they were looking for the game end, but maybe just a little bit too bold on that. They don't manage to quite manage to finish through the top side. They do force a response from Vikla and Zora. They get themselves the Elder. They'll get themselves the Baron off of this. Ultra Prime, not quite there, but they bring the gold back to even, almost into the gold lead. Really, really want to praise this team for playing around the Callista. Every time they've gotten to an objective first, they've believed in the Ren stacking. They've managed to get there on great timing and contest these objectives even from behind the game. Feels like Rare Atom, their objective setup has been so unforgivably poor from the advantages that they were in. So many Ren stacks on the Elder mean that they have to fight. They can't let the Elder go down any further, but they don't have the timing for it. They're not in the right position. Xiaoshu doesn't get the huge counter-strike onto the backline that he was looking for, and he ends up going down into his GA way too easily for the likes of Rare Atom's top laner, what he would like to achieve there.
That Callista had auto uptime the entire fight, hops out of the Severing Bolt. The counter-strike doesn't get much value because of the fact he can stay away from it. They get the GA off Jax as well. Everything goes wrong for Rare Atom.
Doggo now is at full build. Shield Bow builds up on top of the Terminus, the Rage Blade, and of course a lot of other defensive stats too from the Wit's End and the Bailout too. On the top side of the map, you've even got Yokai with the double mask stacking between Riftmaker and Leandri's. Wave clear coming through from Rare Atom. It's even good against the Baron creeps. They're going to need another wave of pressure, or they can look for the poke as well. Can they look for a fight under the turret? They do have a very tanky Malphite. They can potentially look for a dive.
They've still got Redemption and Mikkel for Jue to work with as well, so their ability to play aggressive, I know they've got a lot of tools to stay safe, makes this a desperately difficult defense, as I could use it as the cop and have no mute.
I can give you a break there as well as Ultra Prime. Can they finally finish off their comeback? A flash forward. It's tense. There's a couple of flashes not going the way of Ultra Prime. You can tell how much this means to them against their rivals, their regional, their neighbors. in their own building. They have the last of this Elder just wearing off. They're going to walk away with 2 inhibitors, but they can't quite end the game right now.
Holding their nerve. They've been holding their nerve all game long, despite the disadvantages, despite the gold leads against them.
The shuffle!
Another shuffle! And Zora's down for the count. Tree felled, firewood at the end of the game. And it might be a burning of the vanities, or at least the rare atoms. What colourful smokes they'll make as they're looking to make a bonfire out of this series.
How much left is left in the fuel for the fire, though? They're hitting the towers. That's a big ultimate.
Doggo's still safe, though. He's got a cleanse. He just isn't hurt. The spiraling despair comes across some, but already the jungler's dead. You've got Vikla and Asum alive trying, but this Azir, this Emperor, will not be denied. His crown is just too heavy a burden for Rare Atom to deal with. Vikla forced away. Doggo rends him and pulls spears out of the heart. 2-0 for Ultra Prime. They live up to their trash talk.
Jue, in his trash talk, said, I want to see what this enemy AD carry does. Get some good sleep tonight, because you won't be able to sleep after this series. After throwing a game like that in game 2, I don't know how I would sleep otherwise. Ultra Prime, there was some real character, some real bravery from this team to hold on in that game too. After going down that far in top lane and being pushed back into their own jungle, they probably didn't see their own jungle camps for about a solid 5 to 10 minutes in that game. They come back from a huge gold deficit, and they come back in style. I am so happy to see them get their second series win.
That was very impressively managed. It's 2 very different games as well. That was game 1, Ultra Prime snowball through their win conditions. Game 2, it all goes wrong. Like, that was not a very nice game to play with, and in a lot of ways, I criticized them or said that sometimes they've had a failing of if plan A doesn't go well, they run out of ideas. This time around, the game goes really wrong. They are down 9,000 gold, and they're into their base, and they still manage to come back.
It's really cool to see Ultra Prime not give up after going 1-7. For the record, folks, this is another team which also has Western social media presence. They're one of the few which has really put a lot of effort into that. So, I don't know whether the social media managers of Ultra Prime are watching. It has been a real pleasure to see you guys have so much character and so much tenacity. Going to 1-7 and trying to fight back from that, it is a mental burden on any team. Rare Atom, they're a team which have also struggled. I'm not going to say that this is a huge top-of-the-table upset, but I don't want to hear anyone talking smack about these teams. These games mean an awful lot, even when it is battles between bottom-tier LPL teams which have struggled in the first half of the split. You can tell how tense it can get and how much it means to the teams.
It means for now that Ultra Prime find that second victory, that second series win that they have been hunting for a little while now. They moved to 2-7. It's still not a great scoreline. It probably means that their spring split is realistically not ending in playoffs, but the growth pattern, the trajectory they're on, looks good.
Does. So, folks, we are not going to have time to do the second series today. We have an obligation at 12:30, so I'm going to hang around chat for a little while. The second series will be starting in a little bit. We'll go raid someone else who's doing one of these co-streams, or we'll probably send you over to... hey, it's your friend from Wisconsin. Oh my god. Expert scientist. We were talking a lot of science today. We were talking about rare atoms and... Wait, what else were we talking about? We talked about some science stuff, noble gases, and a lot of puns about that. I forgot a lot of my fun facts about chlorine. I wanted to talk about that, but I didn't. But yeah, folks, thanks for joining us. I'm going to... If you have any more questions, we can chill out for a little bit, but then we have to go do some stuff. But yeah, second series, LNG, RNG. That's going to be a slow one, most likely. Both these teams have struggled. Both of them have struggled to be really proactive and to close out games. So expect 3 long games, sadly. It's probably the one which people will care about more because it's teams which people know more. But I love this kind of game too.
Look at that gold chain!
This is the point. I think... You gotta give MVP to you. Well, do you give it to Doggo or Yukai? Or Jue? No, I think it's Jue. I think it's Jue. Those hostile takeovers were absolutely fantastic.
I would agree if it wasn't for the fact that Yukai had that insane save around the wolf pit.
But he also inted around Raptor pit
one time. I think it's probably Yukai.
Yeah, maybe it's Yukai. His damage percentage is also really high too.
Though Jue would probably be the other person I'd suggest. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, folks. I think we're gonna end it there. We're gonna go and send you over to someone else who's streaming this for now. So thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, we have some other stuff to do. We'll get this up on YouTube. We'll archive it there. By the way, folks, go check out the YouTube. Go check out the Twitch VODs as well. If you missed anything, it is in the videos there. It means an awful lot to us, particularly with the state of the casting industry being very difficult for casters right now. For you to support us in whatever way that you possibly can. Just leaving some likes, leaving some views, leaving some subscriptions where you can. If you can drop a Prime, if you can drop a subscription, it means an awful lot to us. This is our living. We practice this. We do this because we enjoy it. But also we need to make our rent as well somehow. So thank you very much for watching us. That means a lot too. And yeah, I'm gonna go. I think Munchables is streaming, so I'm gonna send you over to him as the other LPL caster that's doing stuff here today as well. Some solidarity between LPL casters. Oops, I'm in all caps there. Raid. And we'll see you in a bit, folks. See you around. Oh, okay. Good cast though. I enjoyed that. That was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. And we will see you on. We'll see you for proper casts on Mondays and Tuesdays, folks, okay? So we'll be casting Mondays and Tuesdays as us two, doing the games which aren't on the main broadcast. I'm going to start co-streaming on official broadcast days when I'm not casting as well, because I don't know how often I'm going to be on the show because of just weird stuff that's happening. So yeah, you're going to get a load of LPL content out of here. I'm going to keep doing some VOD reviews as well. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you next time. 确实，在这场比赛里面，其实是发生了太多的战斗了。